Hi, this is Randy Finney, and today is Monday, December 11th, 2017. This video will cover some of the energy stocks that stand out. Last week in the trading room, I had a member inquire about my thoughts on natural gas, and then he followed up with, do I have any natural gas stocks that stand out? So my response is no. I used to trade a handful, got away from trading natural gas stocks, hadn't really traded them actively in years now, but with that being said, I started working on a watch list last week. So far, I've added a total of 54 stocks to that. It started out as purely natural gas stocks, but as most of you know, that natural gas and oil tend to go hand in hand. Where you find one, you often find the other. And so many of these companies are in the business of producing or distributing either or. And a lot of these, I also had a follow-up question from a new member of the site right after that, an email actually, and he inquired. He said he has an interest in MLPs, master limited partnerships. A lot of the MLPs are in the energy sector, gas and oil, so they've all gotten thrown into this list. So what I'm going to go over today, I have 54 total so far, still adding to that. Obviously, if you guys have any that stand out or you want an opinion on, just shoot me a line in the trading room, and I'll be glad to take a look. If it's attractive, I'll add it to my watch list. And I've gone through and flagged 33 of these that stand out to me as compelling. And that can mean one of two things. Either they're actionable trade ideas like SWN, I mentioned last week, two of my favorites, this being the only actionable one because it was back testing by actionable. I mean, you might have the other one I covered. I'll get to that in a minute. I'm trying to remember what that was. It was in a bullish falling wedge pattern, but it was still heading down and there's no buy signals. However, on this one, as you can see here, you have a fairly well-defined downtrend line, that yellow downtrend line, bullish divergence below. You can see that sort of terminated a wedge type pattern, broke out, back tested, and that's where it was when I did the video. I think it was it Friday, I believe, and up today, nice, a little pop here, about 5.25%. Relatively low price stock, so it's not unusual to see this stock go up or down 5%. You can just look at the recent candles. But either way, again, that's actionable. You can buy it there. It was at both. I like that one because it was at both price support. This horizontal line here, very well defined price support. And that comes in at 555 as well as a downtrend line. So it doesn't get much more better than that as far as an objective entry. Um, if it somehow works its way down, if the energy sector, if prices continue to fall, oil, natural gas, then you have support down here. So there's that possibility too. So just keep an eye on it. Long-term investors, what's the takeaway? Well, you can certainly take a starter position here, a full position. If you have concerns. I have some concerns right now on crude and nat gas prices. That was all covered in my video last week. So if they continue to drift lower, you can scale in and add to, but not below that 5. It's about 505, that line right there. So call it around the $5 level. And if prices start to work their way up here, these are potential price targets that you can see right here listed. And there's a longer term target up around $9, which is, I think a lot of people are starting to turn bullish longer term on crude, at least acknowledging that it's most likely bottomed. Nat gas too. I made a case that nat gas is setting up for a very nice bottom, very strong divergences forming there. So SWN and some of these others have the potential for, to recoup a lot of the losses that they've had in their bear market. And, that alone is a 60% gain. I believe this one has ceased its dividend. That will, probably be restored at some point when cash flows resume. And as I do this video, keep in mind, a lot of these stocks, especially MLPs, are known for their dividends and their yields, but I haven't had time to vet this list and look at all of those. So you have to do your own due diligence. There's a lot of resources on the web, including, but not limited to, the company's website. So you can go there and read through their investor information, and they'll tell you what's going on there, and you could probably determine which ones are paying a dividend and how much. All right, as we move on, MMLP, Martin Midstream Partners, doesn't stand out, really pop on the daily chart, but I had a little note here, see weekly chart. So when I look at the weekly chart, I like this one. This is a 10-year weekly chart, and this box here, that's a support zone. You can see these reaction lows back in late 2008, early 2009, where the stock was pounding out a bottom. It revisited the top of that support range back here in early 2016, and now it's just in the middle of that support range, and we have some very powerful potential. I call these potential bullish divergences or positive divergences because that PPO is still heading lower. In other words, this stock is still in a downtrend. It is certainly a catch a falling knife trade, but what you want to watch for, put this one on your radar. If you want to scale in here, it is objective because you are at support. And if this stock can reverse and move back above that zone, if it can turn these indicators back up, turn this PPO back up, put in a bullish crossover, move higher, and get above that zero line, that would all be bullish. And then ultimately, this isn't a very well-defined downtrend line, but it's just something to watch. There's only a couple reactions there. You could probably drag it around. Yeah, I think this would come in tighter, catch more of the reactions there. One little fake out there. So look for a weekly close above this downtrend line. That would be bullish as well. So longer term, the potential's there. Dividend, this charting service is telling me this one's yielding 15.5. That's probably not a sustainable dividend if that's accurate. You may want to check that, but look at it this way: unless they completely eliminate the dividend, which may possibly be priced in, the stock is down, off the highs. That stock is down 74%. But even if they chop the dividend in half, or even cut it by three quarters, you're still talking a very healthy dividend compared to anything else that's out there. So keep that in mind on that one. All right, GPOR, back to the daily time frame. Gulfport Energy. It looks pretty decent here. You can see it's dancing around. There's a reaction there, some reactions from below. So this is support here, roughly 1237, call it 1230 maybe. I could put a second line below there, capture those recent lows, 1214. So far it looks good because it took out this downtrend line, had a thrust up to resistance. You can see some reactions there. That was a pretty well-defined resistance level, about 1504, and that would certainly be the next target again on another thrust up. You could probably draw a downtrend line here, not very well defined right now, but either way, objective if you're looking. Again, this is for people that are looking for exposure to the energy sector. Again, you'll have to scroll. I don't see a dividend here, but that doesn't mean sometimes they won't show you on this charting service. The stock may pay a dividend, may not. You'd have to check that on your own. But there's some potential targets as well as a long-term target. Okay, let's go a little faster through these. Chesapeake, CHK, pretty nice downtrend line right there. Oops, I didn't mean to drag that line. There's a resistance level here about 423. Here's your downtrend line, captures a lot of reactions. And so we need to take this downtrend line out. That would be your first buy signal. And then just above that, about 423. So I think if this one clears 423, I have to say there is another level here, a couple reactions there, about 445. It should be off to the races if it can clear out 445. That's a pretty bullish. It will have taken out 1, 2, 3 resistance levels at that point. And I like the fact that it has bullish divergence here at this recent low. And it's also, you can see this is longer term support back there, that it's dancing around right here about 370. So again, this is one you're taking at support. It's a little bit aggressive right now because the stock is still in a confirmed downtrend. We really don't have any evidence at all whatsoever of a bottom or reversal, but we do have the divergences which indicate a likely trend reversal is coming. And again, I give you your buy signals. There's many ways to skin a cat. There's many ways to trade a stock. You can take it, scale in, add a third of position on the first breakout of there, or maybe take some here, start a position here, a quarter, a third, however much exposure you want to this stock. Add on a breakout there, add on a break of that next resistance level, and or you can wait for the second one there, and then finally add on a break above 445, and then you can see potential targets or these lines there. RRC, Range Resources Corp, nice bullish falling wedge pattern. Not much else to say about that, other than the fact that this divergence is not yet confirmed. There it is, PPO still pointing down. So that's the common theme here, guys. A lot of these energy stocks are still in a downtrend. This one's just recently made new multi-year or all-time lows. You can see at least going back 2 years, the stock hasn't been this low, but that's a potential divergent low there. And so if the stock can reverse, make a bullish cross on the PPO, confirm these divergences, and then especially if it can take out this downtrend line, I don't see really very much resistance up here until about 2036 or so. The stock's at 1650 now. That's a pretty good run. And again, if you're looking out longer term, you're bullish on the energy sector. Well, this thing is still well off its highs, so there's a a lot of meat on the bone potentially if this one can hang in there and start carving out a bottom. GMLP, Golar LNG Partners Limited partnership. Here we go. We could probably put a line there. Not sure why I flagged this one. It does have a very nice dividend yield, but again, I throw caution to the wind. Dividends can and often are reduced, especially when they're that high. That's suspiciously high dividend. That's all I'm going to say to that. So do your own due diligence. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, and don't buy a stock solely based on the dividend. But again, maybe the market's already priced in a potential cut. Maybe they don't cut that dividend. I don't know. Maybe that's not even the correct yield. You'll have to check that on your own. But there's a stock sort of bouncing around this support range here, this trading range. It seems at 19, 15-ish area support. So it's objective. If you can get it, buy it down to about the 1920 area, you go long. And the top of the range is up here. It's not a super well-defined range, but again, just a potential income idea for you guys looking for that. WLL, Whiting Petroleum. There was a divergent low. You can see the bullish divergence, very nice bullish divergence, and a very nice rally since then. Since it put in that divergent low, the stock rallied about 80%. And this is what an uptrend looks like. So an uptrend is simply defined as a stock or a security making a series of higher highs and higher lows, and that's what this one's done so far. So the next, to confirm that uptrend, we'll have to take out these previous reaction highs like this. And there's a stock in an uptrend. I don't see a lot of resistance at this point. Obviously, anytime a stock is in an uptrend, the previous reaction high is resistance. So you want to see that taken out. And then if it does take that out, you do have some resistance right up here about 31.64. That would be my next target. I can see quite a bit of reactions there around that 31.64 level. That's WLL. EDP, some divergence here, divergent low. There's a resistance level about 25.28 it needs to take out, and then that downtrend line. Very bullish if it can take that downtrend line out. And another one where you can see it may be pounding out a bottom here at support. A lot of reactions around this area. So you can take these again long down here at support. This one, it only makes sense at this point. You can see it's been knocking on that 25, 28-ish level for quite a while. So being that we're just below it, you probably want to wait for it to punch above there and take that level out, ideally on a closing basis. And then you have downtrend line resistance not far above there. AMGP, Antero midstream, there's your divergent low. This one hasn't been trading that long. It looks like it only goes back to May 2017. So not a lot of trading history. Can't really put a super well-defined downtrend line, but there's one to watch. You have a few reactions right there, and it looks good. Again, pretty powerful divergent low. Looks like there is some yield to it, about a 1.25%. It's coming up on resistance now, so it's not objective to take it right here because you're just below that 1909 resistance level, 1909-ish. It's not a super well-defined level. But if it can continue higher, takes that out, that's bullish. Maybe on a pullback, if it hits that level, pulls back, you could certainly go long about $18 because that form of resistance should now act as support. And so those are your levels: support, resistance, and there's two ways to swing trade long, in my opinion. You either go long on a break above resistance, if it looks like that trend will continue. There's, it's not as black and white as always go long on a break of resistance, but for the most part that's bullish. Or you go long on a pullback to support with a stop not too far below. EEP, Enbridge Energy Partners, nice looking chart here. You can see the divergence, bullish divergence down here forming. This one's testing that downtrend line. It's had a couple reactions on it so far, to almost 3, 4. So you want to see a break of this downtrend line. And the story is the same, guys. I already painted a mixed picture in the energy sector, some bullish and some potentially bearish signals. So my conviction isn't super strong, but I'm slightly leaning towards, or I am leaning towards a pullback soon, at least a pullback in the energy sector. Doesn't have to be, a huge 20, 30, 40% drop. And I'm talking mainly in oil, crude oil. If that happens, and again, you have to look at each of these companies. What are their main products? What are they doing? But if that happens, I could see this one working its way down a little bit more within this wedge pattern here before going on to break out. So those are the levels to watch, and there's your potential price targets. So whether we go down before we go up, I do think at some point in 2018, the stock will probably see these two targets. UNG, this is just one of the natural gas ETFs. There's some strong potential, not confirmed divergence. Again, this doesn't track as well as most of the ETNs that try to track natural gas don't do a great job of it. So I like to use nat gas futures. I went over that the other day in the video. PXD, this one's working its way up within this uptrend line, but there is divergence here. You did have a divergent high most recently put in. That may pan out for, there was already a pullback. There was a correction there, pretty mild. If it pushes up higher, I need to add one more line here. I call this a resistance zone. There are quite a few resistance lines close together. So this one's coming up on resistance. This is just a potential downtrend line. There's only two reactions. In my book, I say it takes at least three because any 2 points can be connected at random. So just watch. And that line comes in right around that resistance zone. So if I had to take my best guess on this one, we see a little more upside here to about that 160, almost 165 level, followed by a reaction pullback. Maybe this uptrend line here will hold, and then ultimately we go on to break out above it. So that's something, one potential. I could see that playing out, but I don't have a strong conviction on this one, so I think there's better fish to fry. So let's move on. MLPI, this is an ETN that holds MLPs. And you can see divergent low, and that's the story on a lot of these ETNs that I have here, these MLP ETNs. So this is a way to have more diversity. It's a basket of stocks, and there's the downtrend line. There's the levels to watch. So if it takes out this downtrend line, that would be your first buy signal. We have some resistance around the 2466 level to a little bit above that. There's a gap there about 25. So call that about a resistance zone from about 2466 to 25. Also a target zone if you're looking to take quick profits. I also see resistance certainly right here around 2566. So it's really a confluence of resistance there, or a zone, if you will. But again, these are levels you can trade off of. They're far enough apart that you can swing trade off those levels. But the bigger picture is if it can clear all those levels, in the coming months, that would be bullish and open the door to maybe revisit those old highs ultimately. APA, Apache Corp. It's a downtrend line. It's been sliced through recently a few times, so we'd really want to move that up to this point right here. Say that's our new downtrend line. Bullish one taken out. This is a potential support line. You can see down here it's captured a few reaction lows. So yeah, this one we don't really have an objective entry here right now. But if it does take out this downtrend line, 46 would be your first target. That's pretty solid resistance. Minor resistance, I might have had that line there from a while ago. It's been sliced through quite a bit. So let's just say this is probably the more significant level, about 5180 would be the next target after 46. ETP, Energy Transfer Partners LP, there's a nice bullish falling wedge, these two lines. So this is your first buy signal, would be a break of this downtrend line here. You can see that wedge is confirmed with positive divergence. That's what I like to see on a bullish falling wedge. And there is some price resistance there. I've put so many charts in here, I haven't had time to annotate all of those. 1790 would be your first target, first resistance. I would expect a reaction there. And then if and when that's punched through, so we see something like this, move up there, pull back, and then we test this downtrend line. I probably could modify that downtrend line, tighten it up a little bit. But ultimately, this one may work its way up to about that 21, looks like 2175-ish level over time. So let's move that downtrend line down just a hair, get it tightened up. That's what I'm looking at. Those are the levels. Those are your near-term targets. I should have one other price target right here, about 1945, give or take. And then ultimately this one up here, 2160 is where it was. APC, Anadarko Petroleum, nice bullish falling wedge pattern. Very nice, clean, confirmed with bullish divergence. Everything I like to see. These are some of my favorite patterns, as you guys probably know. They're very reliable. There's your breakout. Initial move up. Since then, the stock has traded sideways here. It did punch above this 50-35 level for a little bit, but that's also capped a lot of the advances. So if it can clear that, next target is all the way up here, about 54.40 or so. So yeah, right now it's again in the sideways trading range, and looks like it pays a little bit of a dividend at this point in time. But again, if energy prices firm up, you'll see some of these dividends increased again. MLPA, Global X MLP. This is a nice one. This is one of the nicer looking ones. Bullish falling wedge, breakout back test. And we're not far off that back test. So it still offers an objective entry here following that back test. Break that previous reaction high would be bullish. There's some support here around 914. If you want to stop that's not too far below, relatively speaking, that's about 3.85%. And you can swing that one, I think, up to the $10 level. That'd be about a 6% gain. And these are some additional targets up here. And we could probably also add a downtrend line off the highs to target. Yeah, we certainly could. And that would come in right around that $10 target level as well. So there's a ETF, which again gives you relative safety via diversification, holding different MLPs in there. LNG, Cheniere Energy. Um, Here's a downtrend or uptrend line that it's walking up, and there's resistance. It needs a break above 51.27, and that would open the door. That's blue skies. If it can take that out, that would be bullish. Near term, it'd be bearish if it broke this line, and these are support levels. If we do get another pullback in the energy sector, these are levels you could step in and buy if the charts look good. 44 is the first support if that trend line goes. KMI, go through these quickly. I'm trying to wrap this video up, not go too long here today. There's a breakout. There's a downtrend line. It broke out, and that one looks good up to about 1826 as long as the momentum continues here. And there's your support level right there, about 1678. You might want to stop not too far below that if you take that one here. DVN, Devon Energy, may have did I cover? No, I didn't cover this one already. There's an uptrend line to watch. There's a target here, resistance level about 40, and next one up is about 45.72. So again, you can set a stop under any of these horizontal support lines. This one should be moved up to right about there. Give you that level, 33.80 roughly, and yeah, right now it looks good. Trend indicators are still above the zero line here. The PPO signal line is. Let's look at a couple more and then we'll wrap this up. PAA, Plains All America Pipeline. There's bullish divergence. You can see the indicators making higher lows with prices making lower lows. So should this one reverse, first target's there about 21.90 and then 23.28. CXO. Looking a little toppy, this one actually, because you had resistance up here, these highs around 147.87. It hit that recently, pulled back, took out this uptrend line, and it did so when it hit that high. It had a divergence, negative divergence in place. So near term, it's already been correcting. There may be a little more downside, but ultimately bullish if it can take out that 147.90-ish level, especially with conviction. ETE, Energy Transfer Equity. This one's just dancing above, this is your support level here. You can see how well these two lines really support zone, if you will. So you can buy this one, step in and buy around 1580 all the way down to about 15 with a stop somewhat below. And as long as it's dividend sustained, about 7.25%, you get paid to sit in the stock. And ultimately, maybe it goes on to break above the top of that trading range, and that would be bullish. MLPX, another ETF, Global X, MLP, and Energy Infrastructure. There it is, bullish falling wedge, like a lot of them. There's your level. First downtrend line to break out, that would be bullish. Next resistance or target, 1384. If it takes that out, then that's bullish as well. CLNE, Clean Energy Fuels Corp. Here's your divergence. You have divergence at the low here, bullish divergence. There's a downtrend line, a potential downtrend line. I left it pretty light because there's not a lot of reactions, but you can see all of these levels. If this one reverses, and remember, the sector birds of a feather tend to flock together. This all has to do with energy prices, and if we get a continued recovery in the energy sector, you'll start to see a lot of these stocks most likely firm up. Total, no, this one looks a little stretched. May watch for break of that trend line. I wouldn't chase that one here, even though it's in an uptrend. MLPG, UBS, E-Trax, Alarian Natural Gas MLP, looks like a bullish falling wedge. This is very thinly traded. Be careful when you see these funky looking candles. Just means there's very low volume in that one. But there's the pattern. NFG, National Fuel Gas Company. If you look at these two lines, it's almost like a symmetrical triangle. It is certainly a triangle pattern. So break above it would be bullish, break above that trend line. And then here are two potential target / resistance levels. If it can take those out, that's bullish as well. And there's an uptrend line to watch if you want to go long this one at that trend line with a stop not too far below, maybe on a daily closing basis. That certainly looks objective. Decent dividend if that's the correct dividend, 2.88%. SR, Spire, that looks like that's bearish to me. This is a utilities company, and that one looks like a short on a break of that rising wedge pattern. NGG, National Good Group, there's a nice falling wedge pattern. It needs to take out this downtrend line. And here's all potential price targets on this one. Nice bullish divergence. It just needs to show us signs that it's bottomed. It hasn't given us that yet. But jumping back to that, it is near the apex of that wedge. Now, that can either break out or this wedge can become extended if this one wants to work its way down. And you'd still have the divergences in place. So again, this is a potential bottoming play, but no evidence of a reversal yet, no buy signals. You'd just be trying to catch a falling knife, stepping in there and not doing so with an objective entry. NWN, Northwest Natural Gas, there's a rising wedge. This is a utility. Most of these utility companies, the nat gas utility companies, look bearish. They look like they're poised for a correction. So again, don't lump them into the category of natural gas producers. It's almost the opposite effect. You know, they've been buying natural gas cheap on the cheap lately. So maybe this is indicating the prices are going to go up and these utilities are going to feel the pinch. So that one looks like a short on a break of that trend line there. OGS, One Gas, another utility company, same story. Negative divergence, rising wedge, well-defined uptrend line. Looks like it's heading lower once those trend line breaks. CQP, last one, and we'll wrap this up. Cheniere Energy Partners LP. Pretty nice support level here around 26.36. You can see a lot of reactions there. You'd have to give it a little room if you try to buy it at that level. It's certainly objective, so down to about 26. If you can get in there and ride it up to the top of the range and either sell or hold if you believe there's a recovery coming in the sector. If it takes above $30, it gets into the next trading range where it was, so that 30 then becomes support. If they can take that resistance level out with the top of that resistance zone or next target around 33.41. So those are your long-term targets. So we'll call that a near-term target, long-term target, support, buy zone down here, and or stop below. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. This has been Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart. Hope you enjoy.